The night they burned Mara's home, she believed she had lost everything. She stood barefoot in the snow, watching flames consume the only place she had ever called home. Her grandmother's journals were disappearing beneath the fire. Her memories were turning to ash. And somewhere beyond the trees, the men who had done it were riding away without looking back. Mara thought she was alone. She was wrong. Before sunrise, 12 enormous white wolves stepped silently from the Silverpine Forest and surrounded the ruins. They did not attack her. They did not howl. They began carrying stones. One by one, they dragged the heavy rocks toward the ashes of her home, as if they had come with a purpose. And when Mara discovered what they were building beneath the mountain, she realized the wolves had not come to save her life. They had come to save something much older. Something the kingdom had tried to destroy for generations. Something no human could ever destroy again. The fire began before Mara heard the horses. Her cottage stood at the very edge of Silverpine Forest, where the last village road disappeared beneath pine trees and the mountains rose like dark walls against the northern sky. It was not a grand home. Its walls were made of rough timber, its roof was patched with old cedar shingles, and in winter the windows rattled whenever the mountain wind came down from the north. But to Mara it was everything. A small iron stove warmed the main room. Bundles of lavender, rosemary, and mountain thyme hung from the ceiling. Clay jars filled the shelves. A narrow wooden table stood beside the window where Mara spent long evenings preparing medicines for villagers, travelers, and injured animals. That evening, she was grinding willow bark when the sound came. Horses. Her hand stopped. She listened. For horses. Then 6. Then more. Mara slowly placed the pestle on the table. Nobody came to her cottage after sunset, especially not in winter. She looked toward the shelf beside the fireplace. 3 leather-bound journals rested there. Her grandmother's journals. Mara had been told never to show them to anyone. She had never understood why. Before she could reach them, someone struck the front door. Mara, the voice was cold. She knew it immediately. Lord Varek. Mara's stomach tightened. She walked toward the door, but stopped before touching it. What do you want? We need to speak. You can speak from outside. Silence. Then came another knock. This one was harder. The door opened. 4 soldiers entered. Snow clung to their boots. Behind them stood Lord Varek, dressed in a dark fur-lined cloak, his face calm beneath the pale moonlight. Mara stepped backward. I have done nothing. Varek looked around the cottage. You've been treating fugitives. I treat wounded people. You expect me to believe you don't know who they are? Mara's eyes hardened. I don't ask people where they came from when they're bleeding. For the first time, Varek smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who had already decided the ending. Search the house. The soldiers spread out. They opened cupboards. They overturned baskets. They threw dried herbs across the floor. Mara watched helplessly as one soldier reached toward the shelf. My grandmother's books. He pulled one down. Mara rushed forward. Don't touch that. The soldier laughed. What is it? Nothing. Varek looked toward them. Bring it here. Mara's heart began pounding. The soldier opened the journal. The pages were filled with drawings of white wolves, ancient trees, mountains, and symbols that had never made sense to Mara. Varek's expression changed. Only slightly. But Mara noticed. His eyes had stopped on the drawing of a white wolf. What does this mean? He asked. I don't know. Your grandmother knew. She died years ago. Varek stepped closer. And she left this to you. His eyes dropped to the silver pendant around Mara's neck. The ancient symbol engraved upon it caught the firelight. For a moment, Varek said nothing. Then he turned away. Burn it. Mara stared at him. What? The house. A soldier lifted a torch. Mara's face went pale. No. The torch struck the wall. Flames climbed instantly. Another landed against the roof. Mara lunged toward the journals. Smoke filled the room. She grabbed one. Then another. A burning beam crashed from the ceiling. Mara screamed and stumbled backward. The fire roared. She ran through the rear door. Cold air struck her face. Behind her, her home was burning.
She turned.
The window where she had watched snowstorms with her grandmother glowed orange. The small porch, where she had treated wounded travelers, was collapsing. The roof groaned. Then half the cottage disappeared beneath the flames. Mara stood barefoot in the snow. Her breath came in broken clouds. She held one journal against her chest. Everything else was gone. Lord Varek mounted his horse. He looked at her once. Then he rode away. The soldiers followed. Soon the only sounds were the crackling fire and the wind moving through the trees. Mara sank onto the snow. She stared at the flames until tears froze against her cheeks. Then something moved inside the forest. A shape. Large.
White.
Mara slowly lifted her head. One wolf stepped between the trees. Then another. Then another. 12 enormous white wolves emerged from the darkness. The largest stood at the front. Its fur shone silver beneath the moon. Mara's body stiffened. She had seen wolves before. These were different. They were larger, older. Their eyes were almost human in their stillness. Mara expected them to attack. Instead, the largest wolf lowered its head, then turned toward the ruins. It picked up a stone and carried it away. Mara did not sleep that night. She sat beneath a pine tree wrapped in the remains of her shawl, watching the wolves move through the ruins. At first, she thought exhaustion had made her imagination strange. But when morning came, the stones were still there. One wolf dragged a heavy block across the snow. Another carried pieces of timber. 2 younger wolves worked together to move a fallen beam. They were not behaving like animals searching for food. They were building. Mara slowly stood. Her feet were numb. She stepped closer. The largest wolf turned toward her. Mara stopped. The creature watched her. Then it looked down. Something black protruded from beneath the ashes. Mara approached carefully. She brushed away the burned wood. Her fingers touched stone. Not ordinary stone. A smooth black surface covered in carvings. She cleared more ash. A circular foundation appeared beneath the cottage. Mara stared. Her home had been built over something ancient. The oldest wolf approached. Mara held her breath. It lowered its head. Its nose touched her hand. The warmth of its breath spread across her fingers. Mara slowly raised her trembling hand and touched its fur. The wolf remained still. Then it turned and walked toward the forest. Mara followed.
She did not know why.
Perhaps because there was nothing left behind her. Perhaps because, for the first time since the fire, something was asking her not to give up. The wolves led her through Silverpine Forest. Snow covered the ground. Pine branches bent beneath the weight. After nearly an hour, they reached a narrow valley hidden between 2 cliffs. There, the wolves had already begun building. Stone walls surrounded an enormous carved entrance. Mara stared. How did you do this? The wolves continued working. The largest carried another stone. Mara followed the wall until she noticed a carving. A white wolf standing beside a woman. Below them was the same symbol carved into her pendant. Her grandmother's symbol. Mara reached toward it. The oldest wolf suddenly stopped. It looked at the pendant, then at the carving. Mara removed the pendant from her neck. The silver symbol touched the stone. Something happened. A deep sound rolled beneath the mountain. Mara stepped backward. The earth trembled. A line appeared across the stone floor. Then a hidden door slowly opened. Cold air rose from below. The wolves moved aside. Mara stared into the darkness. She knew she should leave. Every instinct told her to run. But her grandmother's journal was still tucked beneath her arm. She opened it. A final page contained only one sentence. When the White Guardians return, follow them beneath the mountain. Mara's breath caught. Her grandmother had known. She stepped into the passage. The wolves followed. The tunnel descended beneath the mountain. Ancient carvings covered the walls. White wolves stood beside human warriors. Villagers gathered around fires. Children slept beside wolves. Kings placed their hands upon the heads of enormous white guardians. Then the images changed. Humans raised weapons against them. The wolves fought. The forest burned. The kingdom divided. Mara touched the wall. My grandmother knew all of this. The largest wolf stood beside her. Mara looked into its eyes. You are here. The wolf gave no answer. But somewhere deep beneath the mountain, a low rumble moved through the stone. Mara looked upward. The mountain trembled again. Far away, Lord Varek was already receiving news. A soldier knelt before him. She survived. Varek's jaw tightened. Where? We found tracks leading toward the northern forest. And the wolves? The soldier hesitated. 12 white wolves. Varek stood. For the first time, fear entered his eyes. Find her. He reached for a map. And this time, burn everything. The chamber opened just before dawn. Mara stood at the edge of an enormous underground hall. She could not speak. A stone tree rose from the center of the chamber. Its roots spread across the floor. Its branches reached toward the ceiling. Every inch of it was covered in carvings.
Kings.
Wolves. Battles. Children. Families. And beneath them all, a single symbol. The same symbol she had carried around her neck since childhood. Mara approached slowly. Her grandmother's journal slipped from her hand. It landed on the stone floor. The pages opened. One drawing showed the exact tree standing before her. Mara's knees weakened. She knew. Her voice echoed through the chamber. The oldest wolf walked to the stone tree. It pressed its nose against one of the carvings. A hidden section opened. Inside was a sealed tablet. Mara lifted it. The writing was old, but she could understand parts of it. The first guardians had made a pact with the first kings of Eldermere. The wolves would protect the people. The humans would protect the forest. Neither side would rule the other. They would live together. 4 generations, the pact held. Then one king discovered that the wolves guarded something powerful beneath the mountain.
He wanted it.
The pact was broken. The wolves were hunted. The guardians disappeared. And Mara's ancestors were entrusted with protecting the truth. Her grandmother had been the last keeper. Mara sat beside the stone tree. Tears filled her eyes. All those years she had thought her grandmother had simply been an old woman who loved stories. Now she understood. Every warning, every strange symbol. Every night her grandmother had insisted that the forest should never be harmed. None of it had been superstition. It had been memory. Mara looked toward the wolves. You came because of me. The largest wolf stepped forward. Mara shook her head.
No.
She looked at the ruined shelter above. You came because of this place. The wolf lowered its head. Mara smiled through her. Mara looked toward the mountain entrance. If she ran now, she could survive. But the wolves could not. She stood. Her eyes filled with tears. I won't leave you. The oldest wolf stepped closer. The fire roared. Mara pressed her back against its fur. 12 white wolves stood between her and the flames. Then the mountain shook. The ground split. And something beneath the sanctuary began to awaken. Mara woke beneath a blanket of ash. The fire had passed. Smoke hung over Silverpine Forest like gray fog. Several wolves lay injured around her. Mara moved from one to another. She cleaned wounds, wrapped paws, pressed herbs against burns. The largest wolf had a deep cut across its shoulder. Mara worked carefully. You protected me. The wolf watched her. She placed one hand against its forehead. You shouldn't have. Its eyes softened. A sound came from behind them. The youngest wolf was carrying something. A piece of metal. Mara took it. Her fingers went cold. The royal seal.
Broken.
She recognized the symbol from the stone carvings. This belonged to the first king. The wolf dropped it beside her. Mara looked toward the mountain. Suddenly, everything became clear. Varek did not want the wolves dead simply because he hated them. He wanted what they guarded.
Power.
And if he could convince the kingdom that the wolves were monsters, he could destroy the ancient pact and take the throne through fear. Mara stood. We have to go to the king. The journey toward the capital took 3 days. Mara traveled along the mountain roads while the wolves moved through the forest beside her. Villagers stared. Some crossed themselves. Others whispered. White wolves had become creatures of legend. But the wolves never harmed anyone. They simply followed. When the towers of Eldermere appeared, Mara felt something inside her tighten. The capital was enormous. Stone walls, Tall towers, golden banners, markets crowded with merchants, children running between carts, knights guarding the gates. Then Mara entered the royal courtyard. The wolves stepped from the trees. Panic erupted. Guards raised their weapons. Lower your swords. The command came from above. Mara looked up. The Alpha King stood on the balcony. King Aldrin, a powerful man with silver threaded through his dark hair. He stared at the wolves, then at Mara's pendant.
His face changed.
He descended the steps slowly. What is that? Mara held up the pendant. My grandmother left it to me. The king stopped. His eyes remained fixed on the ancient symbol. My father told me that mark belonged to a story. It isn't a story. Mara placed the broken royal seal in his hand.
The king looked at it.
His fingers began to tremble. Before he could speak, Varek entered the courtyard. Your Majesty, he said loudly, step away from the wolves. The guards raised their weapons. Varek pointed toward Mara. She is a traitor. Mara turned. You burned my home. You burned it yourself. A murmur moved through the courtyard. Varek looked at the king. These creatures have returned to destroy Eldermere. The king's eyes remained on the wolves. Then he looked at Mara. Take her into custody. Mara's heart sank. The guard stepped forward. But the largest white wolf moved between Mara and the soldiers. Silence fell. The king stared at the creature. And somewhere inside the palace, an ancient bell began ringing. Mara was not taken to a dungeon. The king placed her under guard in an old chamber beneath the palace. For hours she waited. Then the door opened. King Aldrin entered alone. He carried the broken seal. I read the old records. Mara looked up. And my ancestors betrayed the wolves. The words were difficult for him. Mara could see it. He had spent his entire life believing his family had built Eldermere through strength. Now he was learning that part of that strength had been built on betrayal. The wolves protected this kingdom, Mara said. The king nodded. And we hunted them. Silence settled between them. Then Mara opened her grandmother's journal. She showed him the drawings. The ancient sanctuary. The stone tree.
The Pact.
The king stared at the pages for a long time. We have to go back. Before they could leave, a guard rushed into the chamber. Your Majesty, the king turned. Lord Varek has ordered the northern garrison to kill the wolves. Mara stood immediately. We have to stop him. They rode through the night. But Varek was already moving. His soldiers entered the mountain sanctuary. Mara and the king arrived just as the wolves disappeared beneath the ground. The oldest wolf looked back, then turned toward a hidden passage. Mara followed. The king followed her. The passage descended farther than before. At its end stood a chamber.
There was no stone tablet.
No book. No painting. Only a wall. But the wall was alive. Roots moved beneath its surface. Mara placed her hand against it. The stone warmed. Words appeared. The original pact. It named the royal bloodline. And beside it was the name of Mara's grandmother. Mara closed her eyes. She understood why the wolves had chosen her. She was not their master. She was their keeper. A sound echoed behind them. Varek. He stepped into the chamber. His face twisted with anger. You should have left this buried. The king stepped forward. You betrayed the kingdom. Varek laughed.
No.
I understood it. He drew his sword. You think people want ancient promises? They want someone strong enough to protect them. You burned innocent homes, Mara said. Varek looked at her. And I would burn 100 more if it brought me the power beneath this mountain. The mountain shook. Varek struck the wall. Stone cracked. The chamber began collapsing. The king was thrown backward. Mara fell. Rocks crashed between her and the entrance. She heard the king shouting her name. Then silence. Dust filled her lungs. She pushed against the stones. Nothing moved. The wolves surrounded her. The mountain groaned. Mara looked at the ancient pact. Then at the wolves. I promised I wouldn't leave you. The ceiling cracked above her. The lights disappeared. And the mountain began to fall. For a few seconds, Mara heard nothing. Not the king. Not Varek. Not the wind. Only the slow grinding of stone. Then the oldest wolf moved. It pressed its paws against the rubble. The other wolves joined. They dug. Stone shifted. Dust filled the chamber. Mara tried to help. Her fingers broke against the sharp rocks. Blood appeared beneath her nails. She kept digging. Again. Again. The youngest wolf found a narrow opening. Cold air entered. Mara could breathe. The wolves widened it, one stone at a time. They did not give up.
Neither did she.
Eventually, sunlight appeared. Mara crawled through. She emerged onto the mountain slope as dawn broke over Eldermere. The king stood nearby with soldiers. Varek was surrounded. His sword lay in the snow. The king had seen everything. The ancient pact. The living stone. The truth. Varek looked toward Mara. For the first time, there was no confidence in his face. Only defeat. "You have destroyed everything," he whispered. Mara looked at the wolves beside her.
No.
She shook her head. "You destroyed it." The king stepped forward. "Lord Varek, you are stripped of your title and placed under arrest for treason, murder, and the destruction of royal lands." The soldiers seized him. He did not resist. The mountain became silent. For the first time in generations, the white wolves stood openly beneath the royal banners. The king lowered his sword. Then he knelt. Not before Mara. Before the oldest wolf. The creature watched him. The king bowed his head. "Your kingdom was taken from you," he said quietly. "I cannot change what my ancestors did, but I can choose what comes next." The wolf stepped forward. Its nose touched the king's hand. The pact was restored. Months passed. Winter gave way to spring. The blackened trees of Silverpine slowly grew new branches. Wildflowers appeared where the fire had burned. And where Mara's cottage once stood, something new rose from the earth. The wolves built first. Stone walls. Timber beams. A wide courtyard. The people of Eldermere came to help. Farmers brought wood. Merchants brought food. Children carried flowers. The king sent builders. But the wolves never stopped working. They carried stones, dragged branches, guarded the workers. And every evening, Mara walked among them. The sanctuary became a home for the wounded. Travelers could sleep there. Hunters who abandoned violence could find shelter. Injured animals were treated beside human patients. The old boundary between forest and kingdom slowly disappeared. One spring morning, Mara stood beneath the restored stone tree. Its roots had begun growing through the walls. White blossoms covered its branches. The 12 wolves rested nearby. The youngest lay at Mara's feet. She touched its head. "You know," she whispered, "I thought they took everything from me." The wolf opened one eye. Mara smiled. She looked toward the sanctuary. Children were laughing in the courtyard. A farmer was repairing a fence. The king's guards were helping villagers unload supplies. Beyond them, white wolves moved quietly through the trees. Mara's eyes filled with tears. "They only gave me something I never knew I needed." The oldest wolf approached. Mara turned. It lowered its head. She placed both hands against its face. For a moment, neither moved. Then the wolf looked toward the mountains. Mara followed its gaze. The morning sun touched the snow. Everything was quiet. Everything was alive. The fire had destroyed her home. But it had not destroyed her. It had revealed her. And the wolves had taken the ashes of the life she lost and built something stronger in its place. Not a castle. Not a fortress. A sanctuary. A promise. A family. Something made from stone, timber, loyalty, and love. Something no king could claim. No army could conquer. No fire could consume. Mara stood beneath the white blossoms while 12 white wolves rested around her. For the first time in many years, she no longer felt like a woman standing at the edge of the forest. She felt like she belonged to it. And deep beneath the mountain, where the ancient pact still lived inside the stone, the roots of the great tree continued to grow. Quietly, patiently, forever. Because some things can be burned. Some things can be broken. Some homes can disappear beneath the flames. But when kindness finds loyalty and loyalty becomes family, there are things no human hand can ever destroy.